shiznit, shooting the shiznit. Best little wrestling podcast in the business. Your host BT and all his guests. You'll never know who he'll have next. Shooting the shiznit, shooting the shiznit. Best little wrestling podcast in the business. Shooting the shiznit.
All right, we're live from 304 Studios in Jonesboro, Arkansas. This is an STSPod.club production. Remember, all episodes Memphis in May, and we have sitting over, well, where the hell are you? You're there. It's Brother Bruce. How are you, Brother Bruce?
I'm doing good, BT. I appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, I'm excited about having you. Shooting the Shiznit, this is the flagship show. We do a lot of them in Memphis for the Memphis in May. I'm sorry, I got to say Memphis in May, so we don't get anything confused about what's going down in Memphis. But what I do is I bring somebody on that I've known forever, and we just shoot the shit, or somebody I don't know at all. This is the first time we talked a little bit before we started the stream there. First time me and you have talked to face, right?
Right. I've watched all of your STS pods. I love them. They're informative and really have the fingers on the pulse of what's going on in Memphis right now.
I love the idea of being in Memphis and being able to see some of you guys go from A to B to Z or whatever you end up doing. I've always been a Memphis wrestling fan, and I was thinking about this last night. This promotion is the only promotion that's been in Memphis that said, hey, I'm going to take advantage, and I'm saying that in a good way. I'm going to take advantage of BT and have him provide content for us, because I don't know if all the other promotions, I was the kayfabe sheet guy, I was the smart fan, I don't know what. I had a bad name and they wouldn't use me, but I'm able to watch these guys. You and Brett Michaels and K Toomer, guys like that. What y'all did was, there was, Power Pro, there was Memphis Wrestling, and then it just stopped on television. There was no, right. So y'all was in this window that y'all were all wrestling, all being trained, all working in the area, but never getting TV.
Right.
And all of a sudden, yeah. So before we get started about that, let's talk about you growing up and being a wrestling fan. Give me a little bit of history about you growing up. What area? Me and you're close to Jonesboro, Arkansas, aren't you?
Right. So I was born in 1983. Not gonna say my age for the math guys out there. They can figure that up.
The sad thing is, I was a sophomore in high school then, so that just lets you know we're a little different age group there. So go ahead.
It surprises a lot of the younger guys when they find out how old I am. So growing up in the 80s, like all the wrestling that was, I grew up in the Mid-South. I did a short stint where I lived in Anchorage, Alaska. Not much wrestling up there. But then I come back, I move. I actually lived in Memphis for several years, and then I moved back to Arkansas. Growing up, just remembering those moments, watching pay-per-views and watching wrestling, on Monday night with my dad and with my grandpa. And we even, I'd get up Saturday morning and before or after cartoons, I would watch Channel 5 and getting to see all those guys. And back when I was growing up, Ozark Mountain Wrestling was in Jonesboro at the Armory. It was awesome, and I actually got to go to a couple of those tapings there.
Man, that is really crazy. I was at 98% of those tapings.
Wow.
At the Jonesboro, what was that? It went American Legion. It was on base, not on base, but on campus. The Armory. Yeah, the Armory on campus there.
Right.
I actually worked. as a manager there for Rampage Championship Wrestling. I don't know if you remember Rampage.
I do. Wow. Oh my
one
gosh.
of the worst TV shows ever.
I was probably, the weird thing about it is, like, if we went back and watched some of that old film, you would probably see me in the crowd.
I got to do that because I had recently told somebody. I told my mom. I said, "Mom, they've got the Ozark Mountain," because I took her. I took my first wife, and you could see my first wife, me, one of my friends, my oldest daughter, and my mom there watching Ozark Mountain Wrestling. I'm gonna have to go back and find a little Bruce. You was
I had a lot more hair back then. I had a big curly bunch of hair. Obviously a lot smaller back then, but oh wow. That's awesome. The microphone cut out.
All right. Am I with you now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is the Bert Prentice book. And Bert actually, I'm saying this, I'm putting myself over. He mentions my name in Ozark Mountain Wrestling, that I came to the shows in Jonesboro and that I was the kayfabe guy. So it's kind of interesting. It's funny. But that is really interesting. So did you?
Do what? I'm sorry.
I loved Ozark Mountain Wrestling.
Oh, dude, I absolutely loved it. Colorado Kid. There was a guy that both of us probably know. About 12 years ago, took me under his wing and polished me up. Dirty Little Dave.
Oh yeah, I know Dirty Little Dave. Works all in this area. Yep.
He opened up the business to me and just introduced me to everything and etiquette and just psychology. Up to that point, I was a basic bumper. You know what I'm saying? I could do the moves, didn't know why I was doing them. Getting with him and then getting with Sarge O'Reilly and a couple other guys really gave me that opportunity. But yeah, back in Ozark Mountain, it was just so cool, the atmosphere and the ring and the whole setup to me was wrestling. And
I loved it. Bert was he was carny as hell. Let me just say
he was, but super knowledgeable, and man, he could bring in the fans.
He did. He had a show at Convocation Center here in Jonesboro. Drew a big crowd. I was there.
Bro, at that point, it was like it was almost unheard of for a smaller promotion other than the WWE at the time WWF to put on a show like that.
Yeah, and no one ever thought that would. Yeah, and Foley came in. There was Tommy Rich, Buddy Landell. There was all kinds of people that came through here. Rich. Loved it. Yeah. All right. Growing up, you said on Monday night. So you were watching Raw and WCW, or was you just a Raw guy?
I was just a Raw guy. Now, the WCW, obviously it gave us a different flavor of the same ice cream, so to speak. And then once the promotion started, guys started going to the other promotion, then you got to kind of see a different side of them. It was almost like I probably about 10 years ago, I caught a lot of the film from Hogan in Japan, and he was a menace in Japan. Just nut. Just an absolute beast. But then when he come over to to America, it was you didn't see a lot of that stuff.
And I actually was getting tapes. We talk about it every once in a while. Like, you can watch New Japan, right now if you want to, a couple of hours or while it's airing. But I would get tapes. It would take me 6 weeks to get a show from, it'd be 4 shows of All Japan, 4 shows of New Japan. But yeah, that was when the Hulk, when Hulk was actually in Japan. Yeah, that was one of those things that people would put up on best of tapes, because you want to see that, and you want to see
Now,
Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid. That was the stuff
yeah.
that went on those Jap tapes.
So
yeah.
I missed a lot of the. I was younger back in the
Right.
in the early '90s and mid '90s. I was a bit younger, but the tape trade. I love, like, once I got into the business, like getting with Dave and getting with a lot of the older guys. Like, they had a lot of those old tapes. Grainy, barely being able to watch.
Third
tapes
generation, yeah. Fourth
yeah.
generation.
And I got to see guys. That I looked up to, and I'd say watched regularly. Guys that I wish to share the locker room with. I got to see them in a different light because they weren't at a big production show. I remember this was while I was in, when I first got in and started watching. It was a match from like 80, 81 or 82. And it was, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was, in a show, and Dave was taping, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. The Dirty Little Gang, took his 2x4 and put it in a wood chipper.
I love that. I never saw that. That was a hell of an idea. Yeah, I love that.
And it was like, talking to Dave about that and just hearing how it was, and just the consummate professional that Duggan is.
By the way, that's funny that you said Duggan, because on Mid-South Wrestling, if you go back and listen to Bill Watts, he calls him Duggan every time he says his name.
I didn't even.
Yes, he says Jim Duggan. You're like, wait,
Jim Duggan.
Bill Watts of all people. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know where that came from.
But when you were growing up and you was watching wrestling, and I always ask people this: when did you realize that it was a work, or And I know it takes a while to understand the business while you're in the business. I remember telling people we went to an ECW tryout like 2 days before ECW. I shut ECW down, by the way, Bruce. I don't know if you know that, but 2 days before it shut down, I had a tag team that got a tryout, 2 tag teams. And the guy said it was Nova. He told us, look, it takes about 5 years before you start understanding the psychology and the who takes the heat, when to get the hot tag, and all that kind of stuff. When did you start first? Was you smartened up? Was it just an aha moment, or did you kind of know it wasn't on the up and up when you first started watching it?
So, like I said, I've always been a wrestling fan, from some of my earliest memories. But so I graduate high school and I joined the Marine Corps. I go to California, and I'm out in San Diego training, and then I get stationed in 29 Palms. And I come home one afternoon from work, and I just turn the TV on, and wrestling's on, and it's almost like one of those things where it unlocks a hidden memory. And I sit down, and I usually just flip through the channels until I found something interesting. So I was stuck on that Monday Night Raw, and I just sat there, and I'm like, man, I used to love this stuff.
Right.
And then I can't even remember who was in the ring. I don't know if I want to remember. I won't put a name on it. I just remember one of the weakest, like, punches, and the guy, and I remember seeing it. The guy tried to sell it before the punch even happened. It looked like he was afraid to get hit. And, like that flinch, but not supposed to flinch kind of thing that happens sometimes.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And this was 2003. It had to have been 2003 because I got deployed to Iraq in 2004.
Wow.
No, this was actually 2002 because I actually got deployed to Iraq in 2003, and then we went back in 2004. So yeah, that's wild. But yeah, I just remember sitting there thinking like, man, this stuff looked so real when
you was growing up. You know,
I was
my experience
was everybody looked larger than life. The good guys were super good. The bad guys were just the evilest, thing in the world. And you just wanted to see the good guy win. And every time they clobbered him, you just knew it was real. And I just remember seeing this thing. And like I said, I was in the Marine Corps, and I just remember thinking like, man, that if I was standing there and some guy was hitting me like that, like I'd probably be busted open. I'd probably have a black eye, and my head would start to swell. Like, what's going on? And then I just kind of turned the channel. I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't what I thought it was. And, I just kind of let it go. Fast forward to 2009. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2007, so I spent 6 years in there. I served honorably, EAS after 6 years. Then I was contacting a buddy of mine, and he was like, "Hey man, we're training." And, I know this is a, kind of a forbidden word for us in the business, but he said, "Hey man, we're training to wrestle." And I was like, "You mean like that fake stuff on TV?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "First off, don't call it that.
Don't ever say that.
Don't ever say that word. The F word is no longer in your vocabulary." And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And the second we started training, I instantaneously fell in love with it. It reminded me a lot of doing training in the military. So I picked up fairly quick. It's no secret now. I have an ADHD podcast. I've had ADHD my entire life. So I really hyper focus on different aspects of the ring. So like the selling and the moves and stuff, the techniques for the what we do, all kind of just clicked. And I mean, I may have to see something or do something 100 times, but I'll get it. And then it'll be, it'll be locked in. But I think that's when it was. Like, so I was in 2002. 2002, I was 19 years old, almost 20.
So did you jump on the internet and get all, because at the time you could get all kinds of, but see,
back in 2002, it was relatively, the internet was still relatively new. But no, I didn't really think about it. I just it was one of those things where I opened a drawer, I saw a picture, I kind of reminisced, and then I closed the drawer again because, I was in the Marine Corps, so I just got off work, and I finally just turned the TV off and kind of went to go grab something to drink and laid down. To get ready.
See, I was getting kayfabe sheets, so they were getting mailed to me. I was reading them. I guess 86, 87, 88 is when I started really getting into the sheets and doing my own little fanzine and everything. But I thought the coolest thing was when I was growing up, I guess, was the real names. Like, we just wanted to know everybody's real name.
Right.
And then when the internet exploded, you could go to sites, and now it's a total different business it's all about, it's all about technology. Technology changes everything. It's changed the rest of the business. Who knows what, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's fun. It's always fun. My experience was my very first live show, my very first real live show. I just remember I was like 6, but when I was a kid, I was sitting front row right at a spot show in Blytheville, Arkansas, Memphis Wrestling Spot Show. And from that point on, because I was so close, I knew there was something not on the up and up, but didn't know what, had no idea. Even the kids at school, when they'd say all that. But wrestling was so popular at my high school that fake word never came out. We didn't do that.
Right.
We want to grow up to be Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, whatever. And we didn't say that word a lot, but there was people that would tell you, that's fake. And we even get that now. My partner Lance Levine does a podcast with me. I remember him saying, somebody said to him, he told him he did a wrestling podcast. He goes, and they had to pull me to the side and go, that's not real. And he was just like, we hate that because I know what your body goes through. I got bad knees,
Right.
and I only did it for 5 years. I was a manager for 5 years, and I got the knees to prove it, kind of thing. So,
Right.
so you get into business, and you're just wrestling what in the small promotions in Hoxie and Jonesboro and in that area.
Yeah. That's really like the places I cut my teeth. Like the first couple of years, I wrestled. I wrestled in Hoxie. My first match was for MACW for Craig Stone. And then at that time, he was only running once a month, sometimes twice a month. And I was looking for something more. Of course, once I got trained and once I got basically trained, I was, still being green, I wanted more. I wanted every weekend. I wanted twice on Sunday. I wanted to soak up as much ring time as I could. So we were looking for a show that worked every single Saturday, and we just happened on a show in Hoxie. It was local. It was close to us, and we started wrestling there. And we wrestled there for almost, probably a year. Well, not a whole year. Probably like 10 months before Dirty Little Dave just happened to show up. And, it was one of those things where, like, me and my tag partner at the time, like, we were standing over in the corner. Of course, we're green, so we're standing up getting dressed. And he leans over to me and says, what the heck is Dirty Little Dave doing here? And I look over, and my first thing was, dude, that's not Dirty Little Dave. Dirty Little Dave wouldn't be here. And he was like, no, dude, that's Dirty Little Dave. He's going to know we're fake. He's going to know we don't really know what we're doing. And for 3 hours of that show, Dave sat against the wall with his arms crossed, didn't say one word to anybody, just watched. And when I tell you that was one of the most stressful points of my life, that's 100% facts. I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know if he was going to tell me to quit, if he was going to tell me that, I needed to stop wrestling and get more training.
And pack up your shit and go home.
Right. So, Dave stuck around after the show, and he gave everybody an opportunity to shake his hand and talk to him. And I remember me and my tag partner at the time coming up to him and, asking him what he thought of our match, if he got a chance to watch it. And he was like, well, I can tell y'all guys are going to be wrestlers one day.
Oh, wow. That made you feel good.
It really did. I was like, oh my gosh, no, you didn't just say that. Like, there was a part of me being a 26-year-old, 27-year-old guy, cocky, just got out of the Marine Corps, like, oh no, dude, I'm a wrestler now. But there was no damn way I was a wrestler back then.
There is a point to where there's no stopping when it comes to learning this business. You have to continue. I remember being in the business for a long time, and this was probably the last 7 or 8 years, and reading an excerpt from Tanahashi from New Japan, his book, and he was talking about psychology, and he was talking about, and I think I messaged you some of this. We were talking about it. It's not only, he said in his book, it's not only the moves, but it's what you do in between the moves.
Yes.
And
yes.
I was like, all the psychology that I've learned, all the blah blah blah, and I was like, you know, that was one of those things where it just ding, you know, and I went back and started watching matches that I'd watched forever just to see what some of the guys were doing in between the moves, kind of thing, and learning new stuff like that. But you don't ever, but there is a part to where, like, I remember working on shows where I felt like my four guys and me knew everything and everyone else didn't. Yeah, I mean, really, but sometimes it was true.
Yeah,
Sometimes it wasn't true. So
it's a trap that I've fell into several times in different places. You know, not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you just know more.
yeah.
You just been a few more places. You've done a few more things. But then you got a locker room of guys that, you know, they're older and been in the business longer. So you kind of just keep your mouth shut and let it go. And you learn from those.
I got a question about that. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Brother Bruce. But you debuted a couple other gimmicks there before we was Brother Bruce, and then we'll talk about Memphis wrestling. All episodes Memphis in May. Back from commercial in just a moment.